Hello friends, I am Avid Anwar Nizami and today we are going to study laminated composite plates. Now let's start. So first of all we will see the term composite. So composite structure, we know that composite is a term which is used for a material made up of two or more different parts bonded together. So any materials or any structures which are made up of two or more materials, so then we say that it is a composite structure, and it has the properties such as high specific strength, high specific stiffness, lightweight, thermal resistant, and corrosion resistant. So these are the main properties of the composite structures due to which we use the composite structure other than the normal materials. Okay. So we use the composite structures in aerostructures. So we can see these rockets, planes, and the satellites, and even for the structures for the boring, we use the drilling and boring, we use the composite materials. So these are the applications where we use, because we require the high strength and high stiffness, lightweight. So lightweight, we know that it's helpful and it's cost effective for the fuel. It will take less fuel, so and can go longer distance or travel longer distance. So the lightweight helps to reduce the cost, as well as the stiffness. High stiffness is there, so that's very helpful, and very high strength materials we use. So therefore these are also the thermal resistance. So we know in the space, or we are having different types of loads, drag force, and also frictions also generate a very high heat. So it is also thermal resistant materials. So there are many very good properties in a composite structure. Therefore we use the composite structures for these structures. So let's see. So first of all we will see how a composite structure is made. So we can say that composite structure, composite, we know that it is a combination of two materials. So we can say one is the matrix and the another material is fiber or reinforcement. So matrix, we can see that these are the matrix, which is the bulk material. Matrix is the bulk material which is in large amount, and fiber, which we can see these are fibers. These all are fibers. So these fibers are very strong or very high strength, because its size is very small. Basically its size is 10 micron meter. So we know that the smaller the size of the material, higher the strength. So these fibers are very high in strength, and the bulk materials, means the matrix, are lower strength. So the overall strength of the lamina, which is made from the matrix plus fiber, this is called lamina. Lamina is a plate layer. So this structure, which is in the direction the fiber is oriented, so fiber is oriented in the direction 1, so it would have a high strength in the direction 1, and other than the direction 1, in direction 2 and 3, it will have very low strength. So we will see here. So it exhibits highest strength and modulus, means modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus of the fibers, and very low in the transverse direction. So high strength and modulus in the direction of the fiber. In this direction we will have very high strength in the direction 1, and low strength in the direction 2 and 3. We will have very low strength. Now it is treated as an orthotropic material. So it is treated as an orthotropic material. So we will see that what is orthotropic material. We know that anisotropic material, So anisotropic material, we don't have, we can say that in anisotropic materials there are a lot number of uh, independency. So it is directional dependent, directional dependence. So we can say that orthotropic is one of the subset of anisotropy. Orthotropy is the subset of anisotropy, where we are having 9 unknowns. So we are having here in this orthotropic material, we are having 9 coefficients, which is E1, E2, E3, means Young's modulus in the direction 1, direction 2, direction 3. Similarly, G1, G2, G3, that is the shear modulus in direction 1, 2, and 3. And similarly, the Poisson's ratio effect, nu 1, 2, Poisson's ratio nu 2, 3, and Poisson's ratio nu 3, 1 or 3, 2. So these are the unknowns which we are having, 9 unknowns in the orthotropic materials. So how we get those things? So micromechanics approach used to determine the engineering constants, and which is based on the assumptions as follows. So what are the assumptions? So for this approach, for the unidirectional lamina or fiber reinforced lamina, what we are having the assumptions? The first assumption is that there is a perfect bonding exists between fibers and the matrix. So this is the fiber. These are the fibers, and this is the matrix. So there is the perfect bonding. So these fiber and matrix have a very nice bonding here. Fibers are parallel and uniformly distributed throughout. So this is parallel to this. So it is oriented in a directional manner, not randomly. So parallel and uniformly distributed. And the matrix is free of voids. So what we assume that the matrix, there is no voids in this matrix, and there is no cracks, micro cracks, and initially there is no stress developed in it. So it is a stress-free state. Now, both fibers and matrix are isotropic. So this is also one assumption, that the fibers and matrix both are isotropic and obeys Hooke's law. And the applied loads are either parallel or perpendicular to the fiber direction. So the applied load is either parallel or perpendicular to the fiber direction. So either we can apply from this side that is perpendicular, or this side. Now we see that homogenization of the fiber reinforced lamina. What is the meaning of here, the homogenization of fiber reinforced lamina? So we have seen this lamina that is made up of two things. One is the fiber, this is the fiber, and another is matrix. It is made up of fiber and matrix. So two different material properties. This matrix is a bulk part, so it is made of some materials, and this fiber is made from some other materials. Now we are having a combined strength from it. We are obtaining a combined strength. So fiber may have the modulus of elasticity EF, shear modulus of the fiber would be GF, and similarly the Poisson's ratio would be nu F, and similarly the matrix would have EM, GM, and Poisson's ratio nu M. And similarly volume fraction of the matrix would be VM, and volume fraction of the fiber would be VF. Okay. So now we have to have one lamina only. We have to consider one plate. So we don't have to go in detail about the interior things when we talk about a laminated structures. So what we assume that this lamina is a homogeneous throughout its thickness. Homogeneous throughout its thickness. So for making it homogeneous throughout its thickness, because we know that it is made from two different materials, even though we are assuming it as a homogeneous material. So for making it homogeneous material, what we do, we have to see that the fiber and as well as the matrix, both we are just considering in a manner, so that we can get the direction of E1, that is the lamina what we have made, that we now consider that this is a plate and we don't have any matrix and matrix and fiber differently. So now it becomes one complete lamina, one lamina only. So now we will have a direction 1, direction 2, and similarly the direction 3. So we will have E1, E2, and E3. Similarly, G1, G2, G3. Coherence ratio nu1, nu2, nu3, and so on. So we will have now these lamina properties, not the individual fibers and matrix properties. We are interested only in these parts. Okay. So for making these, we have to homogenize it. So that is the homogenization that lamina engineering constants we get, E1 such as EF and into VF. This is the volume fraction. VF is the volume fraction of fiber. Volume fraction of fiber. And similarly Vm would be volume fraction for matrix. Okay. So we will get these E1 Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity along direction 1, that is this direction. We will get the lamina value E2, G12, and similarly we will get different values for it. Now, so we have understood the lamina. Now it is the term laminated. So what is the meaning of laminated? Laminate means laminated is a complete plate which is made from many lamina. Because we know why we use many lamina, because we know that a single lamina which is stronger in the direction, in the fiber direction only. So it is stronger in only this one direction, in the direction where the fiber is oriented, in the direction of the fiber, and other directions it is very weak, so it cannot take much load, higher load. But we know that we have to make a composite structure in such a manner that it can take load in any directions, so that we have the stacking sequence of that. So one direction is here, the fibers are oriented in this direction. The second, we can see that this is some plus theta direction, which may be any 30 degree or 40 degree or 45 degree, any angle. Sorry. So it may be any degree, 45 degree or any angle oriented, because we know that the shear, if we apply any shear load, so the shear, maximum shear is in the direction 45 degree. So if the fiber is oriented in this direction, so direction of the fiber takes the highest load, so it can resist that shear load in this manner. Another, we can see that this is the theta 90 degree angle this is oriented. Okay, because we have considered the direction 1 as this is the direction 1 or x direction here. So making any angle with the x direction is 90 degree. So here it is making 90 degree with one direction. So it is orientation of fiber is 90 degree, and similarly it is minus theta angle. So in this manner, different orientation of the lamina is there, and it is now combined together. So it becomes a composite plate. It is bonded together in such a manner that there is no gaps between these all fibers. So all the interfaces are combined in a very nice manner. So it becomes a laminated. Now it will be called laminated structure or laminated plate structure. Okay, and this individual is lamina. This individual is lamina. Single, every stretch is a lamina, and when it is combined together, it becomes a laminated composite plate. Okay, so lamina, we can see here, lamina assemblage provides extremely well performing than the individual parts. So individual parts we have seen that it is only stronger in the direction in which the fibers is oriented, and in other transverse direction it would be very weak. So if lamina is there, so we know that lamina assemblage, when we assemble it in such a manner, then it becomes very highly strong. Okay, in all the direction it can resist the load now. So now the mechanical behavior of the laminates strongly depends on the orientation of the fibers. How we have oriented the fibers, in which directions we have oriented the fibers, it depends. And the thickness of the lamina, what is the thickness we are providing to each lamina, it also depends on that. And now the lamina designed accordingly satisfy specific requirements of each particular application to obtain the maximum advantages. Maximum advantages what we can use, so we can obtain the maximum advantages from the directional properties of the materials. In which direction we are having the maximum loads. If any shear loads are acting, we will try to give the theta angle 45 degrees so that it can resist the maximum load. If the shear stress is not acting or very less development is there, so then we can provide this theta 0 degree and 90 degree cross ply plates and so on. Okay. So now to analyze the composite structures, basically if we are talking about the laminated composite structure, so then how we will analyze, structure analysis would be done. So first of all, we have to know the theory or the concepts of anisotropic elasticity. We should know about it to understand the plate structures or laminated composite plates. And then we have to know the structural theories. What are the different structural theories for this? And the analytical and computational methods. What are the different analytical and computational methods? So anisotropic elasticity equation, we should know about it. We have to aware about it. We will see how we develop. Then the structural theories. What are the different structural theories we apply? Whether we are using the 3-dimensional theory or 2-dimensional theory or equivalent single layer or discrete layer theories. We will see about it. And then after that, the analytical and computational methods. So we can go for analytical computational methods. We are having the numerical approach like finite element method, FEM, or isogeometric analysis, or we are having mesh free methods, differential quadrature method, many more methods are there. So those are the computational methods what we are going to apply to analyze the composite structures. So first, now we will start with the first one, that is the anisotropic elasticity. So here we will see the anisotropic elasticity, that is the first part we are going to study. So anisotropic elasticity equation, what we know about it, from where we have to start. What is anisotropic elasticity equation, or what is anisotropy? First of all, we have to understand the anisotropy. So we will see anisotropy. Anisotropy, this term anisotropy is that this is a directional dependency. The directional dependency, the property of material which shows the directional dependency. Means if a material is there, and the modulus of plasticity is, this is the one direction, suppose this is 2 direction and this is 3 direction. So the modulus of plasticity in this direction E1, suppose 10, and in this direction E2 it is somehow 25, and E3 it is somehow having 50. Those are in MPa or GPa, whatsoever we are taking the units with numerical values. For example, I am making to understand it. So in one direction E1 is 10 MPa, E2 is 25 MPa, and E3 it is 50 MPa. So this direction, the modulus of plasticity is changing. In one direction it is this value, in the second direction transverse to it, it is having 25 MPa, and in this direction it is having 50 ampere. So these different direction the values are changing. So this is the directional dependency. The material properties are changing with the direction. So this is called the anisotropy, and hence here it is changing in the three perpendicular directions. This is the subset of the anisotropy, which is called orthotropy. Orthotropy, where in all three directions the material properties are changing. Okay. So the directional dependency of the material is called anisotropy, and this is the subset of the anisotropy, which is called orthotropy, where the in three different directions the material properties are changing. Three different orthogonal directions. Different material properties. Okay, so this should be noted that in all the three directions different properties we are getting, then it is called the orthotropy, not the same property, different property in all three orthogonal directions. That is the orthotropy. Okay, so now we know that here we will see that anisotropic elasticity equation, that is the generalized Hooke's law. So we have studied Hooke's law. We have somehow in the graduate level we have studied it, Hooke's law. What we know about Hooke's law? What does it say, Hooke's law? We remember that Hooke's law states that the stress is directly proportional to the strain. So when any proportionality sign is removed with the equality sign, then we know that stress is somehow related with E times strain. So when it was one directional, 1D, we generally use this stress as E times strain. But when it is a more than 1D, means 2D or 3D, then this stress we will write it as a sigma ij equals to E ij KL times strain KL, which we say that this stress is a second order tensor. This material property, which is an isotropic material, so it is the elastic coefficients. It's fourth order tensor. Fourth order tensor means IJKL. This is the fourth order tensor, and this is the strain tensor epsilon KL. So now this stress is related with the strain. Stress and strain are related with this help of EIJKL. It is a matrix now. So this can be further written. We can see that further we can write sigma XX, sigma YY, sigma XY, and sigma XZ, sigma YZ, and also sigma ZZ. So we can now relate this stress with one matrix of the material, and then with the material as strain tensor epsilon X, epsilon Y, gamma XY, and so on, gamma YZ. Okay, so this matrix which is related with this, so this would be the constitutive matrix. Okay, this is the constitutive matrix EIJKL. This is the matrix. Okay, so now stresses would be related with the strain in this with the help of this matrix. Okay, so now we will see that how this matrix means E11, E12, and so on. There would be a lot of, if it is 9 by 9, we know that for that we have to understand, if we take any element, this is the element and this is direction 1, 2, and direction 3. So we will have in all the three directions, so we will have sigma 11 or sigma XX, suppose in this direction, and sigma yy in this direction, and sigma zz in this direction, and similarly we will have a sigma xy, means direction of sigma x and direction of y. So we will have the shear stress in this direction, sigma xy. Okay, and in this direction we will have x is this and direction of z. So sigma xz we will have in this direction. Okay, so in this manner we will have all the stresses, sigma xx, sigma yy, sigma xy, sigma yx, sigma xz, sigma zx, okay, sigma zy, sigma yz, sigma zz. So these three, and these three. So total we are having 9 stresses. Okay, so we know that from the equation that we know that sigma ij equals to sigma ji, means sigma xy equals to sigma yx. Similarly, sigma xz would be equals to sigma zx. So these properties are defined when we compute the moment about any points. Then we get the stresses ij equals to ji. Okay, so we say that the stress matrix is symmetric stress matrix. So from there we can reduce this 9 stress matrix in 6 stress. So now this 9 means, now this if initially it was 9, then this matrix would be having 81 elements, means 9 by 9, 9 cross 9. So now this 81 constants would be reduced further, and this will reduce and become 54. Then further we will apply for the strain. So epsilon ij equals to epsilon ji, means we will have epsilon xy or gamma xy equals to epsilon yx. Okay, so this property again here epsilon xy and yx we will again apply. Then it will further reduce the strain with 6. Then again the strain will get reduced, and it will be now 36. Further more elements would be reduced. So in similar manner the elastic constants would get reduced. So we will see here now one by one. So this anisotropic elastic equations, from initially it is 81 elastic constants. We know that we are studying now that 81 elastic constants. Why it is? Because we are having a stress matrix, stress as a vector here, sigma ij 9 rho 9 y1, and this matrix E matrix was 9 by 9, where it was 81 elements, and the strain matrix was initially a strain matrix was 9 by 1. So this was elastic constant was 81. So first we have applied. So here we are initiating with the strain. So okay, so we are having the strain part. So in initially 9 strain, so it will reduce to 6 due to the its geometry. So stress will reduce, strain will get reduced, so the elastic constant would reduce 9 to 6. So it would be now 81 to 54. Here it is written 54 the elastic constants. Now after that again the symmetry due to stress would be there. So now it would reduce to 36. Then further thermodynamic consideration. Here what is thermodynamic consideration? We know that strain energy, we assume that strain energy is a function of strain or stresses. So if you know that, if we have to find out the stresses, then partial derivative of the strain energy with respect to a strain KL would give the value sigma ij is partial derivative of the strain energy with respect to strain. So this is also interrelated. So sigma ij del u upon epsilon KL, or sigma KL would be del u upon del epsilon ij. So it would be the symmetric again. So therefore, from this thermodynamic consideration of strain energy, this is also called hyper, due to this hyperelastic property of the material, hyperelastic material property. This we take the advantages. So from there, further reduction occurs, and this becomes elastic constant as 21. Okay, so this is the general anisotropy, which is also called one triclinic material, which is having 21 elastic constants. Now, after that, the material symmetry plays the role. That if the material is in one plane symmetry, then it would further reduce to 13 elastic constants, which is called monoclinic. Further, if three mutual orthogonal plane, the material is symmetric, then it would becomes 9 elastic constants reduced. Then one plane, same properties and different normal to it, so then it will have the 5 elastic constants, and this is called the transversely isotropic material. And then the material property is independent of the direction, means in any direction we are having this, every direction we are having the same properties of the material, then the elastic constant will be reduced to 2. Okay, so if this is the thing, then it is called the isotropic material. Okay, so we have studied the anisotropy in detail here. So further, now we will come to the second part. So we will see here again. So first part we have studied the anisotropic elasticity. Now we will go to the structural theories or analysis. So here we are going to study the structural theories, analysis theory, structural analysis theory. So the analysis theory we will see here, that first we apply for the composite plate the equivalent single layer theory. We can also go for the three-dimensional theory, or another is the discrete layer theory. So the three-dimensional theory, it is the exact analysis, it gives the exact results. But what is the drawback here? That the three-dimensional theory, we can find the analytical solutions or closed form solutions only for the simple boundary conditions, such as simply supported or with a cross ply laminated beams, okay, or plates. So we are very much having constraint here to use the three-dimensional theory, because we have to make the finite element approach, it becomes very difficult. So for different boundary conditions and all, so it gives very good or accurate results, exact results for a very simple boundary conditions and simple stacking sequence of the laminate. Okay, so we are having the drawback that we cannot use for the general consideration, that any for any stacking sequence or for any angle rotation of the lamina we can find. So we can't find for that. So we have to go for the other options. So there is another options that we are having a equivalent single layer theory, and another also two-dimensional theory is the discrete layer theory. So first of all, we will see the equivalent single layer theory. So in equivalent single layer theory, we are having, if we are having suppose a laminate with 0 degree, this lamina is having a 0 degree, this is having 90 degree, and suppose this is having a 0 degree stacking sequence. So now this three different lamina will have a, this become a one complete laminate. Okay, if 3D we will see, this will be the three-dimensional view of the plate. Okay, so this will be the direction of the fibers. Now, so now here we will see that this equivalent single layer theory takes this as a single and assume here the mid plane. Okay, and then it apply the or it approaches for that with using the Taylor series expansion. It applies the Taylor series expansion. Taylor series expansion for the stresses and displacement fields to get. So we'll see further in detail with it. So first, the simplest equivalent single layer theory is the classical laminated plate theory and the first order shear deformation theory. And then there is the higher order shear deformation theory, or the reduced shear deformation theory, or third order shear deformation theory. Third order. We will see why it is called also third order shear deformation theory. Then the refined plate theory. What is refined plate theory? Or simple first order shear deformation theory we will see. And then the quasi three-dimensional theory. We will see one by one all these theory and study these things. And then we will go for the discrete layer theory. What is the discrete layer theory? Where each lamina is studied differently. Okay. If we are having this 3 lamina here, 1 lamina, 2 lamina, and third lamina. So here lamina 1 would be studied, means each lamina, the displacement field of the single lamina 1 would be studied here. Similarly, for this lamina different fields would be studied. So each lamina we will go for the different field variables. So this is called the discrete layer, means layer by layer we will study. So one of this is called the layer wise, but the problem in it gives a very good result. It gives approximate to the three-dimensional results, very close results almost. But the computation, at the cost of computations, very high computation, because the field variables are dependent upon the layer. The number of layer would increase, the independent variables will also increase, because we see that if we are assuming the field variables with the layers. So for each lamina we are assuming. So therefore we will have a very large number of unknowns for large number of lamina. For 100 or 200 lamina, it would be very difficult to go for that. So we are having a very good alternative with this, and this is the defined zigzag theory. First, it is the zigzag theory, which was given by Deshiva, who was the pioneer, and the Murakami's, two authors, Murakami's zigzag theory and the M. Deshiva zigzag theory. So these two were the pioneers. 1980 or 83, this Deshiva has given, and Murakami has given, I think, in 81 something. So they were the pioneer for that. Why it is named zigzag, we will see. Because we generally see that the displacement fields from the classical laminated plate theory of first order shear deformation theory will give the linear displacements in all the laminae. Means if we have to plot for this lamina, we will get the displacement field as a linear. So this is not the correct results. We will get the displacement field linear, but the variation would be there with the thickness to length to thickness ratio. So we will get like this, the displacement field, like this, we will get the displacement field for the different lamina, lamina 1, lamina 2, lamina 3. Okay, in this way. So this is the zigzag manner the displacement fields would be obtained. Therefore, to get this results, we arrange the field variables in such a way, or we assume a zigzag function in such a way so that we can get this plot. So therefore this was named as a zigzag function or zigzag theory. And then further, the Tesla in 2007 has given this theory for the beam, and in 2009 has given for the plates the zigzag theory, which he has refined the drawbacks of the Deshiva and given for a very better results for the cantilever beam or plates also. This is the refined zigzag. And the advantages, what is the advantage of this? That it is layer independent. The field variables are independent of the number of layers. As in layer wise theory, it was just depending on the number of lamina, but here the unknowns are independent. Okay, so if the number of layers is 100, even though the field variables would be 7 only, 7. Okay, for the plates and 5 for the beams. So this is very advantageous. So we will see it, or we will study in detail this theory, refined zigzag theory later. So first of all, we will study this classical laminated plate theory, first order shear deformation theory, higher order shear deformation theory, refined plate theory, and quasi three-dimensional theory. So I think in a few months back, I think we have studied this classical laminated plate theory in detail. But even though we will see that how to go for this field variables again. Today we will brush up it again, and also the first order shear deformation theory, then the higher order shear deformation theory, and how in MATLAB we plot the results also we will see. So today let's see how much we can study. And one thing here, it is written here C1 continuous, and here it is mentioned as C0 continuous. Means here when we are talking about equivalent single layer theory, we have mentioned that C1 continuous along the thickness, but we have given the exception for the first order shear deformation theory. And here for this discrete layer theory, where it is layer wise or refined zigzag theory, we are mentioning that it is C0 continuous. So basically we will use this advantage in coding, means finite element method. We can apply very easily the C0 continuous FEM. And for this C1, we will go for the isogeometric analysis as a numerical approach when we will use the numerical approach to go for it. So now here some basics have been given for the equivalent single layer theory. The heterogeneous laminate. Why it is called the heterogeneous laminate? Because we have seen that this laminate is made of lamina 1, lamina 2, and lamina 3, and this complete is called the laminate here. This is laminate. So the material property 1, the property of the material would be 1 here. The different material properties would be there in 2, different material properties would be there in the third lamina. It may be of the metal, it may be of the ceramic materials, and again it may be of any other materials of polymers or any materials maybe, suppose. So we are having different material properties. So along the thickness direction, means in suppose we are assuming this as Z, and it is the total height is H. So in the Z direction, it is varying from 0 to H1, means at this interface the material properties is same, that is homogeneous here. Then again from H1 to H2 the material properties is different, and then again H2 to H3 the different. So this is homogeneous within this. This is homogeneous within this layer only. This is homogeneous within this layer. But when it will cross from this interface to this interface, the properties of the material will change. So along this thickness direction, the properties of material would get changed from the interface. Once we enter in this interface, the properties will change. Again at this interface, the properties will change, and so on. So therefore we have mentioned here as a heterogeneous laminate. The laminate is heterogeneous. Lamina is homogeneous. When we are talking only about one lamina, it is homogeneous within this properties. Even though at microscopic level it is not, but we are making the as we have seen that we have homogenized it with the fibers and matrix in one sense. So we are telling that it is homogeneous in a average sense. So this lamina is homogeneous, but the laminate is heterogeneous. So we have to understand this term. Laminate is heterogeneous, means it is depending upon the position, that if we cross this to this, the material value would get changed. And homogeneous and heterogeneous, we know the definition, that homogeneous material is independent of the position, or positional independence is there, but heterogeneous laminate is one where the material properties depend upon the position, that if the XYZ coordinate changes, so here we are talking about the thickness direction heterogeneity, so therefore the Z value change, the property of the material property will get changed, so therefore it is heterogeneous laminate and is treated as a statically equivalent single layer. So we are just assuming it, considering it as a single layer, one layer only. Okay, so the displacement field XYZ, we are not taking 1, 2, 3 different lamina, but a single lamina, and assuming that the displacement field would be at the mid plane, we are assuming it because we are considering very thin plate structures, so therefore we will assume it as a single lamina U of XYZ at the mid plane. Then we will consider the U naught, which would be the displacements along the mid plane, in plane displacements, and plus Z times the field variables phi or something. We will see how we will derive it. So in this way we will consider. So here the sense is that to make it equivalent single layer, so we are considering only one U as a to define the complete displacement in the along the thickness direction of the laminate. So therefore it is equivalent single layer, having a complex constitutive behavior, reducing the three-dimensional problem to a two-dimensional problem. So it will reduce the three-dimensional problem to a two-dimensional. This phi would be in the function of x and y, and this the thickness along the thickness direction. So we will make it in the sense to make it easy. So the equivalent single layer theories are developed by assuming the form of displacement field or a stress field as a linear combination of the unknown functions and the thickness coordinate. So what this means, that if there is any function I of x, y, z, then how we will, this may be the displacement field, this may be the displacement field or stress field, it may be any stress field. So we can define this function phi I, whether it may be the displacement field, where I would be goes from 1 to 3. Okay, so if for the displacement field I would go for 1 to 3, that it may be the U1. If we are talking about the displacements only, then we can define it as summation of, so UI j equals to 0 to capital N Vj phi I of j of x and y. Okay, so further we can expand it. So z0 into phi 0. So z0 means z to the power 0 means any power to the 0 means 1. So it would be 1, and phi naught of xy. So it is not power 0 for phi, but for z it was the power 0 plus z square, z to the power 1, which is linear part, and phi 1 of xy plus z to the power 2, phi 2 of xy. Okay, and here it is phi I of xj. So for I equals to 1, if we are writing for I equals to 1, then it would be phi 1, phi 1, phi 1, and so on. So in this manner we will expand it, the functions. So now this assumption allows us to treat the stress deformation analysis as a two-dimensional problem. So based on this assumption, the results and their accuracy depends on the ratio of the thickness of the plate. So if the thickness of the plate would be less, means thin plate, then it would give very good results. Otherwise, as the thickness would increase, therefore the accuracy will decrease with that. Okay, so now the equivalent single layer derived from the three-dimensional elasticity theory, making assumptions concerning the kinematics of the deformation of the stress state through the thickness of the laminate. So we will stop here today. So equivalent single layer theory we are studied here up to this part. And in the next lecture, we will study or we will see the detail of classical laminated plate theory, how the displacement fields are defined, how the displacement field for first order shear deformation is defined, and then the displacement fields for we can say third order shear deformation theory, or we can say reduced third order shear deformation theory or higher order shear deformation theory, refined zigzag theory, and all. So we will study this in the next lecture. So till then, thank you.